Hello, I am Dr. Kristian Pérez Zurutuza, and I'm presenting the Linguistic Typology Multilingual Language Teaching Migrants Integration while Preserving Minority Languages paper. Traditional methodologies have encountered great criticism during the last years as linguistic and pedagogical research shed light upon its limitation and the misconception leading to incorrect approaches to teaching, which derive in pupils' ill feelings, negative response, suffering, and poor linguistic skills. The current paper attempts to bring into evidence a methodology based upon typology and its applications as for linguistic research and pattern exposition that languages display as a valid tool for the teaching of languages in multilingual scenarios. Furthermore, typological approach to language teaching serves the purpose of laying out grammatical, syntactic, derivational, and other patterns and elements of language visually through cardboard cutouts or computer-based methodologies following the same trail, to enable the pupil to visually comprehend and become aware of the linguistic components that conform language in a manner in which mechanical exercise becomes a valid and effective manner to acquire language through mechanisms they require short-term, long-term memory skills, all with little or no need for previous linguistic knowledge, but the one of their own native tongue. Moreover, the same tool may help immigrants integrate linguistically, and hence socially, economically, and any other social sphere, because it would require their own language as a valid tool for their integration through the school's ability to address the migrant population through the unique method valid and common for all languages taught, which of course includes that one of immigrants. Thus, the foreign language learning starts off and finishes with and in the inclusive knowledge of the pupil, no matter age, origin, or knowledge, as their cognitive and emotional skills are steadily increasing. Finally, minority or endangered languages might benefit from the use of this methodology, as it would help increase the number of speakers of all languages, so that phenomena such as diglossia or poor use of language may be overcome. This paper examines the case of Basque, which is spoken in the north of Spain and 3 provinces of southern France, one of the oldest languages in the world and currently endangered. Traditional definition of subject offered many problems in traditional language teaching methodologies, which addressed it as the doer of an action. Such definition rendered inconsistent and erroneous whenever certain verbs and their nature was analyzed, as Comrie discussed. Hence, the agent role of the subject can pose certain problems, as in the examples, he's making the bed, in English with a transitive verb, él está haciendo la cama, Spanish equivalent, ver ahora aquí tenerida, Basque equivalent, and il est en train de faire son lit, in French equivalent. A second example to be taken into account, my niece studies hard, with its corresponding sentences in the other languages. The woman gave her son a present, in English, with a ditransitive verb, or the girl fell down the stairs, in English, with an intransitive verb with a non-agent subject. The first example shows that he, and its equivalents él, vera, or il, has a semantic role of agent, that is, the doer of the action. It fits the traditional conception of subject, for semantically the transitive verb make requires an agent role of a doer. So plus human, for a non-human, cannot make beds. And the patient role of the minus human entity expressed in the sentence as the object. Being a transitive sentence, both the agent and the patient need to appear, for absence of either would render the sentence ungrammatical. In these sentences, both the subject and the object are necessary for the verb to fulfill its semantic. Nevertheless, both Spanish and Basque display subject case overtly in the word el, or vera, and morphologically in the auxiliary verb a, or da. Thus, if only the over pronoun is eliminated, the sentence renders grammatical due to morphological being expressed. But if this latter is eliminated, the sentence is ungrammatical, as in the examples given. English, since morphologically displays no subject case except for the third person singular case in the present with an S, needs an overt subject. In the example, the woman gave a present to her son, or the woman gave her son a present, as Comrie and Hegeman express, the plus human appears before the minus human, but before the hierarchy, direct object versus indirect object, a semantic confusion may happen. But the use of the preposition and the morphological display of the case banishes all error and respects hierarchy cross-linguistically, for the hierarchies mentioned are universal. Nonetheless, the last example The girl fell down the stairs displays a non-adjective subject of an intransitive verb. In this case, the plus human subject is no doer of an action, but sufferer. If agent, the verb fall down, would be semantically problematic, for one does not fall upon will as an agent, but falls as an accident, which recalls its nature of patient. Thus, according to the traditional definition of the subject, this sentence would face a conflict. The sentence would lack subject, which is not possible, as final law says. The case of patient subject, however, maintains the subject position and is semantically and grammatically perfect. In addition, sentences such as passive, which necessarily bear a patient subject, would no longer be grammatical, which is absolutely preposterous. Thus, the subject is to be defined as a position in the sentence structure, not as an element submitted to semantic requirement. Therefore, a new definition of subject is required not through semantics, but as what it really is, a position within this structure, as defined in the X-bar theory developed by Chomsky. Chomsky and the school of generativism are currently favoring the conception of language as an innate cognitive construct of the mind, and, as Carnier explains, as experimental psychologists such as Pinker, or cognitive psychologists such as Cuetos, openly manifest in their development of their ideas. This structure represents with X any given head of a maximum projection or phrase of itself, once other maximum projections may be prepositionally or postpositionally adjoined. The top position of the phrase is formed by the initial projection of the head, X, and accompanied by a specifier position, which is where the subject lies in the sentence level. Thus, the subject is apposition. As Comrie and Lewandowski analyze, final law 1 is a linguistic universal, appears consistently in all natural languages throughout the world with no exception. To this respect, Comrie says that invariantly every sentence possesses a final subject, that is, a subject at the end of every cyclic movement with an inflective verb. This implies that there must be a subject at all times, which may be shared in coordinated sentences, but each having a co-index subject, as in they arrived soon, and they left, in which the second they is omitted. French realizes over lexical subject to avoid phonetic confusion with indifferent realization of morphological subjects within the verb, through inflection in different tenses, as in va te faire voir. The various parts of speech are not semantically defined, but on its distribution, both morphological and syntactic, as Carney explained. The former is to define the affixes in their various forms, which are derivational morphemes, which usually result in a different part of speech, as in to announce, verb, plus the suffix meant, and resulting in announcement, which is a noun. On the other hand, some morphemes are inflectional, as the case of the superlative est, in which big and biggest are both adjectives. The other case is that of syntactic distribution, which relates to the analysis of what words go with what other words, as in the case of the definite article the, which goes with nouns. This is also accompanied by the case of the semantics of the verb, which relates to the distribution of the categories according to thematic marking of meaning and the roles derived from it, such as the agent, or the doer, patient, or sufferer, or, as Hegeman indicates, the other thematic roles, which include the theme, the experiencer, beneficiary, goal, the source, and the location. These shall define the distribution of the predicates within the sentence, which is what is to be addressed through the typological parameter of what order. This indicates what order the different linguistic units, nouns, pronouns, verbs, auxiliaries, or any other, assume when forming sentences. Other patterns may include typology of subjects, ergativity, as in the case of Basque, behavior of prepositions, or formation of the verb complements, among many others. All these patterns establish the manner in which linguistic comparison is established when analyzing the target languages to outline their similarities and differences. This enables the language teachers approach teaching and pupils in a way in which the knowledge of the native language serves the purpose of building a bridge to address target languages through parametrical instrumentalization of conveying meaning transference in a system that makes pupils' previous knowledge be something to be used as a tool. Linguistics, hence, approaches through mathematical numbering of various elements of the sentence, as Comrie or Maure, as follows. With number 1, we indicate the subject, with 2, the verb, and 3, object. Therefore, word languages are seen as combinations of these, as Comrie indicates. The 1, 2, or subject-verb positions are subject to subject-verb agreement with inflection, When one verb doesn't give information because of any reason, auxiliary verbs are used. They adopt those functions of agreement, tense, etc., and are used in a position between the subject and the verb in order to maintain the final law 1. When a verb's meaning is explained by indicating if the action of the verb is an obligation, possibility, probability, or an intention amount, or any other meaning, modal verbs are included. They occupy the same position that auxiliary verbs do because they also adopt the agreement and tense information obligation, so to speak. Auxiliaries and modal verbs have the same syntactic function, but modal verbs indicate how the verb happens, while auxiliaries don't. In order to form questions, there is no subject-verb inversion, as traditional methodology of Spanish, French, Basque, or any other language explain, including the teaching of English as a foreign language. So, 1-2, subject-verb doesn't become 2-1 or verb-subject. What simply happens is the first word occupying the 1.5 is moved to a 0.5 position. Finally, for different reasons, a 0 position can be used to indicate a sentence, for example, being a condition, in which if, unless provided, or any other word indicated condition is included, or a relative sentence with WH pronouns, or yes, no as the simple question form. We can see that all possible transformations in sentences happen respecting the position of the words occupying with regard to the function they have. Subject, number 1, WH complements in questions, the 0 position, auxiliaries in 0.5 in questions, and so on. Hence, it is very important to say that the skeleton of what order is always respected, and semantically, nothing changes. This is called structure preservation rule. And this rule observes that the syntactic structure, deep and surface, is always respected. Once again, that being a universal requirement. Therefore, once English examples offer the purpose of establishing the verb tense formation of English, and in comparison with any other language, all may be addressed in a comparative manner to be taught to pupils in a similar manner through the target language vocabulary, simultaneously respecting the linguistic parameters. When addressing pupils in the early stages of primary education, cardboard cutouts are to be used, all with colors representing grammatical relationship of various lexical components. Therefore, as we head towards a new methodology, it is important to say that traditional language teaching methodologies in Spain and the whole educational system in a general way have undergone great development in academic literature, but very little in real academic practice at schools, which has provoked schools and pupils to lack the appropriate dynamics and much experimentation, as Marina points out. For such methodologies only rely upon repetition of grammar contents and listening, writing, or reading tasks through the repetition of the act, and doing nothing but reinforce the issues affecting those pupils failing to assimilate second language acquisition properly, mainly due to this methodology's inability to address and properly establish the post-semantic mechanisms operating beyond the circular transformations in the target language that the repetition indicated acts upon, as Kessler indicates. The evidence shows that the first language learning greatly enables the learning of second languages, thus take advantage of knowledge required through the learning of the mother tongue, and the mechanisms used, as Artiagoiti explained. Hence, these mechanisms may be used in a more efficient way in order to make the pupils use the same strategies for multiple language acquisition in the classroom in primary education, as this methodology attempts to. This methodology approaches multilingual language acquisition through the active use of the pupil's mother tongue when addressing the target languages. The use of overtly displayed typological grammatical units make an indirect use of pupils' linguistic abilities in a direct manner, simultaneously make them make linguistic predictions based upon the openly displayed syntax-based space operations, as with the use of cardboard in the following photograph. The red color cutouts indicate what order pattern, and in the case shown, of English, but that is to be established in all languages. It clearly establishes the position in which each grammatical item is to be placed. Therefore, linguistic hierarchy is displayed, and people may see what they are to place where. They address the position they occupy and the order in which they appear within the various syntactic operations, be that made from the most simple ones to the most complex, requiring full use of the position and auxiliaries needed. Since word order implies full possibilities of verbs, auxiliaries, and further combinations in a cumulative manner, as for example a simple affirmative sentence becoming a passive or a conditional impassive, or a reported speech of a conditional impassive, the pupil might face gradual learning assimilation from the most simple individual elements, as pronouns, adjectives, adverb, affixes, etc., to the most complex, as passives, relatives, or the higher grammatical and syntactic elements. This makes the pupil need to use various intelligence simultaneously, spanning from analytical to cognitive, memory, abstract thinking to make sure predictions in the language they don't fully comprehend, and among others, emotional, for success is immediately rewarded both through joy and fun and through motivation and positive reinforcement by reducing frustration to the minimum. As Cuetos and Marina indicate, is very important. The most effective tool to address multiple language learning in class for the only element required is a full grammar laid out through cardboard cutouts to be used in combinative sequences. Each language requires an individual system to be used, one system for each language. Hence, English, Spanish, Basque, German, French, Italian, Chinese, Russian, or Arabic may be taught through the same methodology based upon the same principles and in a comparative manner to make the pupil effortlessly reach acquisition in an exponential way as the phonetics, scripture, pronominal forms, verb systems, etc. are progressively assimilated. The full content may be given this shape of a box measuring a 30 by 25 centimeters, one box for each language. It is important to address that there is a difference that lies beneath languages. While some might be open or transparent, others may be opaque for Western pupils. In other words, for Western pupils of Spanish, Basque, English, or Italian, among some other languages, there is a clear distinction of how phonetics and scripture may be related. For some languages have a direct correspondence, as in Basque or Spanish. English and French don't provide such direct access, for what is pronounced is different from what is written. Furthermore, Russian, Arabic, or Chinese, among other languages, imply the learning of another alphabet, thus making language acquisition more problematic. Or the whole grammatical content may be accessed later as reading abilities of pupils in these languages are slowly being mastered. Hence, the implementation of these languages may be functionally decided upon the fact of immediate needs emanating from the need of migrants from these countries to be educated and integrated, or without these constraints through the knowledge of learning processes and multiple language teaching in early stages of education, which is something to be performed by teachers. For preservation of minority languages and integration of immigrants, a case study of Basque is to be addressed. Basque is one of the oldest languages in the world and has endured a very long process of survival, which Basque linguist and professor Koldo Zuazo considers to be a miracle. Miren Azcárate and Zuazo explained there is an improvement in the situation of Basque, though still endangered and minority, throughout the last 25 years, due to the creation of the 60s of Euskara Batua, or Standard Basque, which provided the different dialects of a standardized linguistic form to be used in academic and professional uses, and offering the different dialect speakers of a single form to be used in the Educational Board of Education and schools in the Basque Country. This has provoked the strengthening of Basque through the creation of new speakers, mostly through the so-called D model of schooling. This uses Basque as the main language for academic life from 0 to 18 years old, and retains Spanish language as a subject. There has been an increase of around 300,000 new speakers of Basque with full linguistic competence, within a total population of 2,129,339 inhabitants, according to the Basque government. The model became strong in the Ikastola school system, created in the final years of Franco's dictatorship, which directly attacked Basque in its various forms, from ethnic and ideological to deeply cultural by forbidding the use of the language or Basque names, as Zuazo explains. Ikastolas were created as a tool for Basque education in Basque, which may enable the revival of Basque language and culture overtly endangered. This created a cultural movement in language, arts, media, and academic education through the creation of the University of the Basque Country. Although in the Basque Country, two universities, Deusto and the University of Navarre, existed both at the hands of the Opus Dei and the Jesuits. Current data exposes that the model gathers 56% of pupils in primary, middle, secondary, and high schools, and covers the ages from 0 to 18. 23.2% use the B model, which offers education in Basque and Spanish as teaching languages in a 50-50 system. On the other hand, the decrease of the A model, retaining Spanish and as the only teaching language, and having foreign languages and Basque as mere subjects, has reduced to a rate of barely 5.9 especially in Guipúzcoa. This shows the current problems Basque has to face, while traditionally and historically confronted four main issues, as Thuato explains. The first problem was that it suffered a severe geographical withdrawal. It was, and still is, socially marginalized. Its structure has been deeply altered, among many other elements, or a situation of diglossia in which Basque is in inferior status. Fourth, it endured a harsh dialectal fragmentation. Basque displays 5 main dialects, a total of 20 subdialects or variants, often with great differences among them. By no means does this article imply the current methodologies at hand at our schools are not valid or incompatible. On the contrary, this methodology attempts to provide a new approach to fill the void from which traditional methodologies suffer. This new methodology attempts to approach language teaching through the typological fragmentation of language grammar in a manner in which it is systematized so that the teachers share a common approach of language in a way in which the soul system common to all languages, grammar, typologically established in its multiple components, phonetics, lexicon, etc., are organized to be taught and learned in the system closest to natural learning of languages as when newborn and babies. Displayed before them through cardboard cutouts in traditional format or computerized software versions for the same purpose, that enable the pupils to visually address the linguistic components as pieces of a visual puzzle. Since cardboard cutouts materials may be more widely and easily, and of course economically accessible, in schools where economy may become a variable to be severely considered, the minority language may be strengthened while simultaneously enabling the pupil acquire other languages, for the methodology would be common to all teachers and teaching inclusive. So, as for conclusions, this methodology approaches multilingual teaching in a most efficient manner by making the appropriate use of typological patterns in a way in which pupils may address their own language to learn the diverse target languages by solving the limitations that former traditional methodologies may have overseen. It is the pupil, the active learner in a non-passive way by making them become participants of the teaching-learning dichotomy, more easily by addressing the diverse linguistic features in the same manner and methodology, especially by the increasing use of multiple intelligences required. It is this methodology that may enable linguistic integration of migrants by making use of their own language to reach the target languages or soul language of the society into which they are to fit, and especially in the case of endangered and minority languages, this same tool may help revitalize them by making the creation of new fluent speakers become an easy task, especially in the environments in which multilingual teaching may be a facility at hand. So this was the ending of the paper. I hope everybody liked it, find it useful, and I very much appreciate your offer to participate in this conference. Thank you very much. Have a nice day.